Welcome, beautiful people, to another episode of Bipolar Lines. I am introducing us today. My name is Laura because unfortunately, Brooke, my co host, is out with COVID. However, I have a very fun special guest named Angelina. Angelina has been posting on social media, particularly TikTok, and just doing a great job with the same mission that Brooke and I have, which is to break the stigma, get these laws changed so we can get our loved ones help. So, welcome, Angelina.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Laura. I'm so excited to be here. Just that you reached out and that we're connecting on this level, because I think this is what it's about. It's about like kind of building a community together so that we can make our numbers stronger to achieve the goals that we want to accomplish. So I'm excited.
Yeah, your content really resonates with me as I watch it. Because for one, it's authentic. For two, I can tell you've been through some shit.
Absolutely.
And you're committed to your husband. You're not one of these people that ran. You're one of the people that stayed, and you guys stayed committed to each other. And through what you have learned, you're literally doing a TikTok to help other people. And that's exactly what Brooke and I are about too.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think that the more that people know about it, the less frightening that it can typically be.
Yeah, I think this is the next step too, because I've said before, I feel like we've gotten there a lot of times with depression. People do seem to have a soft spot and empathetic understanding of people who are in depressive episodes. But mania, we are not there.
No, no.
No, with mania and psychosis, people are nowhere near. So that's why, I'm passionate about this topic. So.
Anything to make that change. And I hope that we can just kind of continue and more people will reach out and there'll be more creators. The more of us there are, the better, I think.
Yeah. So tell me about you, because I honestly don't know much about you except what you post on TikTok. I do know that you're married to your high school sweetheart. I do know that you've been together for at least 20 years. And I do know that you've experienced manic psychotic episodes with him. So yeah, tell us about you.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I mean, you know the story. We were high school sweethearts. My husband's actually younger than me, and not a lot of people know that. So he's 2 years younger than me. We have a very tumultuous beginning of our love story. So I absolutely love that about us because I feel like it's going to help later on the book that I'm working on for us. Because I've always said since the very beginning, before even his first manic episode, that I was going to write our love story and I was going to share it with the world. And now it's just kind of become something a lot bigger than it is. I have two children. Our first child we had pre our first manic episode, and then I got pregnant with my daughter during his first manic episode, surprisingly enough. Definitely a lot of things that concern me in that because I do know there's genetic components to it. But outside of that, I typically work. I work for like a Medicare Advantage plan company. I'm a strategic operations associate, and I'm very passionate about mental health spectrum and making those changes because it's not just about my husband and what he's going through. It's about protecting future generations of our family and our bloodline. And that's so important to me because I don't want anyone to ever have to suffer the way that we have suffered just due to the lack of care and the lack of insight that a lot of people seem to have about mental health, even here in the 2025s.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Angelina. I started to write a book about our love story. I felt the same way. It was a very tumultuous getting together, because we didn't know one person was unmedicated bipolar, and I just called our love story Mad Love because it just felt like so intensely good. And then when it was bad, it was just so bad. And but we both knew it was like special, and we both felt that way. I started to write one in 2016 after his second manic psychotic episode, and it just fizzled. There was something missing. And so I only recently, within the past week, kid you not, I was just writing this morning, decided to pick it up again and rework it. And I have, I think 6 more manic psychotic episodes to put in it now. But I also have so much more. I have, like the TikTok that we started and the advocacy that seems to be popping up, and just groups that are really advocating for our loved ones with mental health. So it seemed like a good time for me to do it too. So
Yeah, I know. To get the story out there, make it told. I think I'll do mine in like a little series, kind of like, integrate people into it. That's how I kind of look at it.
that's
Like a
so
multiple
cool.
series.
I love that.
So,
um, so you have 2 kids. How old are they now?
My son is 15 years old and my daughter she's 8. I don't know why that escaped my mind, but they definitely have a huge age gap. We actually had to take fertility meds to even have my son. So whenever we had my daughter, we had not been doing anything to stop ourselves from having children. But then during that episode, it just seemed to work out and now we have her and love them both to death. My son is super smart. I will say that we've been monitoring him a little bit just because he hasn't been sleeping very well for the last few weeks. So, as a parent, that's always on the back of your mind. And so you just kind of take him to a doctor or psychiatrist and you try to see, is there anything going on without being overly like scared or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, your content too really talks about how you guys have put in the work. So you didn't just wing it. You've gone to therapy, you've put in the work, you've learned about it. And honestly, that's what people need to do. And we've talked before just over text that when people ask us, how do you do this? Our number one answer is like, you have to understand what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I'm definitely for sure about that. Like blindsided into like the first episode that we ever had. Like I had no idea what was going on. We'd been together for 14 years and I made so many mistakes along the way during that first episode. And one of them was trying to follow my husband along in his psychosis to get there mentally for myself because how do you save someone unless you're experiencing what they're going through, right?
Yes.
It was a bad mistake. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Have you ever felt yourself going down the same rabbit hole?
So his first episode, he thought that I grew up Catholic and he grew up Mormon, and then we both kind of came together with this shared disillusionment of organized religion. We were both like disillusioned with it, believing in a higher power, but not really going to church or anything like that. That wasn't going to be the life path we wanted together. And his manic episode though, he was hearing voices and the voices told him that we were going to lead the Mormon church. I didn't know what was going on either, and I don't know about psychosis at this point. I've heard of schizophrenia. I'm like, you take him seriously because I mean, he's your partner. Like I'd known him for like, what was it, 4 years now, 4.5 years, and I'm like, okay, like help me understand this. So I didn't go down the rabbit hole with him, but I was trying to be like, why do you think this? Like what? Yeah. So not quite maybe as deep as you're alluding to, but I definitely did entertain it for a while.
Yeah, because why would you think anything other was going on? Like we had been together for 14 years. And I remember like he went to a psychological convention. That was the big kickoff for us is that convention. And with the convention, he had taken some Vyvanse and he had never taken that before. But that's what the college kids did is they would take medication to help them study or get ready for something. And when he came home, he was very concerned because he said his heart rate was just consistently going and that he couldn't go to sleep. And we were both psych majors, which is the wild part about all of this is we were actually in abnormal psychology whenever he like was starting to go through this first episode. And I don't know if it was like this for you, so I'm so curious to know. I remember when he did start not getting as much sleep, he still seemed energized in the day, and he was outside like playing with us. We lived in like a family housing sort of situation, and in there we had like my son had so many people to play with, but my husband never really came out and played with them because he was like shy or he's always busy. He's not a very social person. And I was amazed because he was playing football with our neighbors, something he had never done in the 14. I've never seen my husband throw a football in my life. But like being there and then watching him do that. And I remember standing at our kitchen sink and I was like, why am I so upset that this is happening? Like literally he's doing all the things that I've ever wanted him to kind of do and to kind of interact with us. And so I didn't even know what was going on at the time, but I caught it. Like I felt it. I knew something was up.
Yeah. I didn't have as much time with him as you did. So 14 years, I mean, it's a decade longer than I had. But he just did stuff that, yeah, I didn't. And now hindsight, it's kind of textbook. I had no idea. He thought the DEA was after him. I mean, he smoked weed, and I was like, I don't think the DEA is after you for weed. But, he would be like peering out our windows. Cody is extroverted. He's extremely extroverted, actually, just normally, naturally. So he's even he's over the top when he's manic. That's what I'll say. But yeah, and like he it was the paranoia finally for everybody. We had neighbors upstairs, and they were talking to me too. Like he thinks people are after him. He's talking really fast. He's got lots of ideas. He keeps changing the subject. And so that was kind of like how it happened. I don't remember thinking about the sleep at the time. I'm sure he wasn't sleeping. Yeah, and then just getting fired from all of his jobs, not being able to keep a job. It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time.
Yeah, it was. But I learned a lot during those episodes because, I did everything wrong. The first couple ones, upset. And that was actually something I wanted to ask you a question about. Whenever your husband went through his first episode, I was very intrigued to ask this for you. How did other people around you outside of your neighbors treat you, like family members and stuff? Because I was definitely pushed back by them a lot. Like they were like, I don't know what you think is wrong with him. He's acting just like his normal self, telling me that I was the bad person and like all this sort of stuff. Like no one thought it was weird that he was leaving me for someone else after just meeting them after a couple of days, and we've been together for 14 years.
Yeah, definitely not my family, but I would say yeah, his even his last one, we've have 8 now or 9. And even this last one in 2023, his mom just told my son, well, Laura makes him crazy. That's why he acts like this. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, that's the reason. Not that he has a diagnosed, certifiable mental disorder that's been confirmed over and over and over again by medical professionals. It's me.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate.
Mhm.
But no, I think what happens to my family is that they see it and then they're just like, leave, get out, leave. Why are you staying? Because they're just so worried about me,
Mhm.
and don't want to see me suffer. So that's not really helpful either.
Mhm. I definitely see that. Like, I understand your family's perspective of where they're coming from being on an outside perspective, because my family does the exact same thing that you're talking about. And the reason I believe that they have this ideology, like you need to get out, you need to leave, is because they're thinking of you, which is what all good family
Yeah,
members do, which is
for sure.
important.
Yeah.
But it's really because of how the media has betrayed mental illness and how dangerous it is. So a lot of the fears that my family has is that he's going to just pop off one day and I'm not going to be in this realm anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so to them, they see him as more of a danger in those episodes, and that this is going to be us watching like the ID channel and it's going to be a story about their daughter.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not the case. You have to understand that psychosis typically is not violent unless the person is using illegal substances,
Mm-hmm.
or even legal. Alcohol is one of those substances as well too, because it's
Uh-huh.
like gasoline on top of the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely, I think, have that too. And like you said, the way the media portrays it, and statistics show that someone in psychosis is more often to be a victim of it than, a perpetrator. I will
Mhm.
say that Cody does get like violent, but not toward us. Like, so he just was, I just made a TikTok yesterday where he was, he hasn't been sleeping very well, and so he had to take trazodone like 3 nights in a row. He took 2 sick days to try and get his sleep under control because sleep is so important. And he was just telling them, they were asking how he was feeling, and he was trying to explain that he had to take a sick day because he needed to sleep, and they looked at him sideways because like that seems sus to average people. And he was like, well, no, you don't understand, because if I don't get sleep, I'm the type of person that I'll catch a charge.
Yes.
And I
Oh
was like,
man.
oh no. And then they looked at him even more sideways, like, okay, like, I don't know. It's people do not understand. They're cool. His work actually is cool. This was a coworker that probably doesn't know a lot about it, but yeah, so in his case, like he has, for example, trespassed, get picked up a charge for that. Or he was disordered thinking that someone stole his truck and he took out a lawn chair and bashed the truck. Like, why he did this, I don't know. Picked up a felony menacing charge for that. You know what I mean? So in
Yeah.
those cases, he is, but it's not. Yeah, it's not directed at other people unless he was provoked. He had one friend who kept telling him to swing at him. I don't know why you would ever say that to a person who's manic, but yeah.
I will say that that is definitely something that lets you know right there, like the criminal stuff about it is the negative part, because my husband has no legal record of ever doing anything unless it was in a manic episode. And
Right.
like Kendra's story that recently came out, that actually hits home for me because I lived that. I lived
Mm-hmm.
that from the perspective of the loved one watching someone do that.
Wait, what
Yeah.
story?
Kendra, have you the one that fell in love with her therapist?
Oh, yes, yes. We should tell people who aren't on TikTok, but yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, like, that story runs really close to home to me, and people don't understand. Like, they think that, like, my husband fell in love with his counselor.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you. Oh, this is something I wanted you to touch on because it has a name, and this happens
Yes.
to a lot of people.
Yes, it does. This is exactly what it is. So, like, it's erotomania is exactly, it starts like in, it could be happening in just regular mania without full blown psychosis. It's just a delusional thing that happens. And I have not been through one episode where I have not experienced erotomania. So I've experienced it for all 6 episodes.
Hard.
Yeah, the first 3 times it tore me up. Now I'm like, okay, we're all right. It's gonna be okay. But it still gets to me sometimes. Like, after you've gone through 3 months of mania,
Mm.
like, you break no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
And we did 4 months recently here in October.
Oh.
But like, he had been going to his counselor for 2 years. And this is someone I had recommended that he go to in the first place because I know how important therapy is. Like, you can take medications, but if you're not doing the work, then you're still going to have the triggers that can stress you into mania. Medication is only half the job.
Mm-hmm.
But with this one, he had actually gone off to a psych ward because he was already showing signs, and we were trying to get there early so that we can make him stable. They ended up only keeping him for 3 days, and then the nurse practitioner was like, "Yeah, he can go to work tomorrow." And I was like, really?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I was like, absolutely not. You're totally off the wall. And when he came home, I noticed that he because they always have a journal that they write in, and he had written in the journal. And inside of that journal, like, he had wrote a 3-page long love letter to his
Oh,
counselor.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, here we go. This
Oh,
is
man.
exactly where it's going. And like, she knew what was going on. She's been dealing with him for 2 years. And so she acted very professionally during the whole situation. One thing people don't understand, especially when it was from the counselor's perspective, that she can't just discharge him because that can actually be very harmful to your patients, and it can cause more issues because they think it's something else going on. But it didn't really matter because no matter what she does, everything was a sign
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
So her not wanting to, like, get in contact with him is because she doesn't want to lose his license, but that she does truly love him because they were both like INFJs, which is a Myers-Briggs thing that, like, makes them the same personality type, and it's really rare. And then, like, different things that she had said in his counseling sessions, those were clues. Even her not responding to his complete, like, text messages and stuff like that. But that was probably the best version I had. But when he didn't get through to her, then it became other women. It became like 2 other women that he met at the psych ward, because he went 3 times this last time that we went. And like, the first one was just this girl, and they all had M names, which was really weird to me that he was picking M's.
Yes.
And he was with her, and he fell in love with her, and he was getting ready to move out of our house, and he was going to go move to another town, and he was going to go to an all girls college so that he could go work at the psych ward that he was at. I feel
My
like this hits
gosh.
home. Or did you, have you had this happen before?
I have not. He doesn't have those type of delusions, but we've had delusions, where you're just like, it's just, and you see this train wreck just getting worse and worse and worse, and there's like nothing you can do about it.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a lot of things that even in this last episode I was doing wrong. Like, I don't like him to drive off and go places, and I have a medical power of attorney for my husband, but it doesn't help all the time because he can revoke it at any time the moment he remembers that he can revoke it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the only thing that's a sure thing that you can get is like a guardianship, but I digress.
No,
But
actually, that's really nice to know because I didn't know that either. That's something you and I had talked about because we've considered doing that, but I mean, he revokes ROIs, so what's the point in getting that if he's just gonna? I mean, if it can just
yes,
be revoked at any time.
exactly. So we
Yeah.
went into the lawyer's office, have this piece of paperwork that absolutely means nothing at all. And I'll tell you why. Because every time my stuff gets revoked.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one time that he's been in the hospital that he'll call me, but I can't call and talk to the doctors.
Yeah. Yes.
That's how it goes. But yes,
that is exactly how it goes over here too.
yeah. But we've been through a lot of them. He moved on from this other girl and went to another one. And, constantly it was just about leaving and taking away from the family. So it's something that happens quite consistently with us. And, as you've gone through it, the first time it broke me down because I really thought he was going to leave me. Um, but a lot of the times it's just infatuation unless the woman's willing to receive the affection. And the only other women that I'm ever concerned about receiving it are the ones that he meets in the hospital while
That would
he's
make
there.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would make sense. Wow, yeah, that's so much. I mean, people ask me all the time if we do have like one episode of Affairs in Mania. It hasn't been the case over here, knock on wood, right? Because I will say to the listeners that it seems to be the exception, or rather than the rule, that and there's multiple reasons you could be having a delusion like you said, like erotomania, or pairing that with the the my kids might be down here, but you probably know that they get hyper. Do you know where I'm going with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. That happens every single time. Yeah,
Yes.
we'll just
Yeah.
call it actual. We'll say actual.
There we go. And so pairing it with that, and it's a recipe, and then pairing it with what I call like impaired executive functioning, which is what's responsible for understanding consequences to your actions, you being able to like have self control. All of that flies out the window. So pairing that with like impulsivity, and then yes, that hyper fixation, you can have a delusion, and it's a thing.
Yeah, it's gone so far as like in the middle of an episode, my husband's having conversations with our 15-year-old son, telling him, "Hey, your mom and I are going to be best friends forever, but we are going to get a divorce, and we love each other very much, and like." I'm going to go be with my counselor. My son had met the counselor because my husband tried to get him to go to her before, and he didn't like her, and he was very upset about it. And I had to have a conversation on the sidelines with my son. Hey, baby, everything's okay. It's going to be all right. I know this seems like like a big situation, but it's really not. Everything's going to be fine once the episode is over, and we will work through it from here.
Yeah.
So,
In the past, I feel like mental health breakdowns were completely like shoved under the rug. Like even Cody's family or my family remembers someone going away and then just coming back and no one really knew why. And so that's not how we deal with it either. It's like open, honest. I have children's books that I've read to them even when they were young, explaining what this is and that daddy gets sick. And yeah, how do you handle it aside from just kind of talking them through it?
so there's actually a lot of things that I do differently with like my kids than my husband's family did because he comes from a strong bloodline. His grandfather had it and his mother had it. And when he got it, he was clueless because no one talked about it. Like you
Right.
said.
Yeah.
Like someone just goes away for a little bit and then they come back. My children experience it, and I think it has a lot to do with laws were different then than they are now, and people actually went away for a little bit until they got better and then were released back. Now they're like 3 or 4 days, so my children have to deal with it firsthand. But what I do is in the situations where he's at the highest level of psychosis or mania, and I think that it's not good for our children because you have to remember bipolar disorder has a genetic component and it's brought out by substance abuse. It's brought out by trauma in the past, and it's genetic. So I try to pull them out of the traumatic experience. That doesn't mean that he isn't home and they don't get to deal with it and see it, but when it is really bad, they're not in the home because I don't want them to have a skewed perception of their father and think that that's who he is. And I also don't want them to be exposed to trauma because people minimize what caregivers go through a lot of the time, but what they don't know is a lot of us get PTSD from it. So diminishing what we go through is it's a disassociation from the experience we have. So while we're over here trying to protect as counselors, because I've had a lot of them come on my page where they're like, well, what you're talking about is not okay because you're hurting the person with the illness. No, I'm validating both people's experience because both things can be true at once, and telling me that my story is going to be something like I'm a mandated reporter and I'm going to come after you now. That's literally bullying me into silence so that I don't say anything. The conversations me and my husband have between each other is our conversations. And we both know that I do my TikTok channel. Does he want to be a part of it? No, he does not, because he doesn't want to spend his time dwelling on it. But I want to help people who are in situations similar to mine get better at handling the situations.
Wow, I'm so sorry that that's happened to you. That is completely uncalled for. And you're right. Like caregivers, I've been diagnosed with PTSD from the episodes. Like I have hypervigilance and major anxiety. Like when I think one might be coming, you can't help it. You know, there's that book, The Body Keeps the Score. I mean, you try and push it down all you want, but it still happens. Like that's just what it is. And I just want to agree with you that at the height of an episode, my children are removed as well. Like there's just no need to see someone who to see their father that way when there's just no need for them to. So yeah, I definitely do the same thing. I was going to say something else. Oh, and just how you said your husband knows about your TikTok but doesn't really want anything to do with it, very similar to my husband. Like he's actually the one that told me I should write a book, like but he doesn't want to be part of it either because he's the exact same way. He doesn't want to dwell on it, he doesn't want to think about it. Like other people have asked, like, hey, would your husband be up for a support group? I'm like, nope. he's like, it's not going to help me listening to other people's problems that came from bipolar. That's not going to help me. So that's so interesting. Your husband feels the same way.
Yeah, it's a really real thing. I mean, they deal with the mental illness and they try to detach themselves from it because of the guilt and the shame that they go through because it is so far from their personality. He just feels right now, and he has been in a depressive episode for a while. So he says that he thinks he might, maybe. But it's really going to be up to him. I'm not going to pressure him into it because other people are like, well, why isn't your husband coming on here and telling the story? Because he doesn't want to and he doesn't have to. So
exactly.
why don't you share yours?
Yes.
That's how it works. And I hate to sound catty like that. And I understand people come from like a traumatic place and why they feel that way. Maybe they've seen other people with disorders get abused or taken advantage of or being exploitative. But I'm obviously not trying to go viral. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I should have picked a different group if I wanted to do that because this is a very small portion of people. But yeah, I mean, like it is something that you experience and that you go through, and he's not ready for it. He doesn't want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I love that he's supportive of you and just, you know, you're helping so many people. I mean, I know just from me doing TikToks too that people, you know, it's lonely. For one, it's confusing, but then you get educated. Then you understand, but it still doesn't make the road any less lonely. It's very lonely. And yeah, it's like when you can see or talk to someone or just even listen to someone like your TikToks going through what you've been through, you're like, oh my God, it's not just me, you know, because it can feel like it's just you.
It is, and it is. We are all kind of pretty isolated from each other. Just think how far away we are from one another. But we did find each other through TikTok, and that's what's important. I felt so isolated so many times, so many people just constantly in your head giving you advice on what you should do. And then you having to stand there and be strong enough to decide things on your own based on the knowledge and the skill that you've gotten.
Man,
And
that's so true.
it is, and it is sad. It is sad. And those are just one of, with the hospital and stuff, and even the doctors aren't even that supportive of your situation. Like the caregivers typically pushed on the sidelines every time.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate because if you included caregivers and people who actually love the person, I believe they would get help better. And I believe that because there's only one hospital in our area who let me go every single day, twice a day. They have visiting hours. Normally it's 3 times a week, or even 1 time a week. Sometimes it's not at all. But the times that but the time that he was in that hospital where we could go twice a day, he got better in 1 week, which he's usually here. I know your hospital stays are different in your state, but here they will keep him. I mean, a week would be so short. I mean, he's usually in there like 2 weeks to 3 weeks before they let him out. And I know that's not your experience, huh?
Mm-mm. It isn't. And some of the hospitals around here, we've never had it where we can go see somebody. It is once a week. That's the most that I've ever been able to visit him when going to a hospital. But the real reason that I think it's so important that you include the spouse is because when you send them home, you send them home to the person.
Yeah.
Because they always have to make sure. And that person doesn't have any experience, and you've cut them off. That's the horrible thing about it, is because I don't know what to do, but you're expecting me to be an expert and not make any mistakes. So thanks.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard on family. That's such a good point. Wow.
So I did have some questions for you that I
Yeah,
wanted
sure.
to, because I've gone through a lot of crisis training, where, just kind of learning how to speak to somebody who has when they are in psychosis or in the disorder. I do share a lot about not arguing or fighting with their delusions. I honestly used to do that in the past, like straight up argue with them and try to be like, you're either something wrong or you're going on, we need to go to the hospital. But how do you approach your episodes with your husband?
Yeah, so like when you said you made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, I 100% made all of those same mistakes because you don't know, like what you don't know. I know better now, and even now that I know better, it is the advice is exactly what you said. You try not to argue with anyone, you try and remain calm, you don't take what they're saying personally, you are trying to de escalate them, and fighting with them is only going to escalate them. There is no way you're going to de escalate by fighting back. It's not going to happen. And then in psychosis, you don't try to convince them that their reality isn't real. That would be like me trying to convince you right now that you're not really talking to me and we aren't really doing this podcast. You're going to be like, you're going to eventually get angry because this is your reality. This is what you're experiencing, and someone is invalidating your reality. And so that's what we're doing when we're doing that to someone who's in an episode. But it was totally through trial and error, Angelina, for sure. Like, even just kind of putting it on me, like you're making me anxious, like when I realized that like that's not helpful either, because now he has increased pressure that I feel anxious and he's the cause of it when he's just trying to manage his own. So lots of trial and error, similar to you.
Yeah, I think before I went through crisis training, I did exactly what you're talking about that you did, where it was just trial and error, and you would notice, oh, if when I argue back, this is what's going to happen, or if I, try to validate what he's saying, like it doesn't mean like when they're going through delusional thoughts to be like, yeah, that's totally happening. That's actually
Right.
dangerous too. But it
Yes.
means like, tell me how you feel. Like, let me know a little bit more about that. And I have like a direct example I can give you that I've actually gone through recently. So, with my husband, who was going through his psychosis and he had erotomania, one of the things that he would tell me was that, he was going to leave me and he was going to be with this person. And so I was like, I can appreciate where you're coming from. I'm sorry that you feel that way because I absolutely love you. And if you're willing to, I would be more than happy to kind of work this out with you. And so that made it feel so that he was safer to open up and going into the conversation. Before in the past, I'd be like, you're absolutely just off your wall. And I can't believe that you would say this. We've been together this long.
Yeah.
And, it's just not helpful because you have, like you said, it's a break from reality, and you cannot fight with somebody whose reality is different than the one that you guys are living in together. Because even
Mm-hmm.
if we are in this reality where we're both on a podcast right now, the way that we perceive it is going to be different. It's never going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just kind of keep those things in mind, and I try to remember who he is as a person and how he would want me to talk to him as his baseline personality. That's the term I use. I say baseline.
Yeah, I like that term. I use that too because a lot of people tell me when you went to our earlier conversation saying, do people, not see what you're seeing? And yeah, and they also don't see what I'm seeing because they don't know what his baseline is. So if he goes to bed at 1 a.m. and wakes up at 7, some people will be like, well, that was a solid 6 hours. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm like, but that's not his baseline. That's not his normal, and we know their baseline, which is why we know when why we are the first ones to know when they're off.
Exactly. His family, who he grew up with all of his life, after they had been separated for a little bit of time, in that exact same kind of situation that you're talking about, is when he did, because he got kicked out of the state that we were in order to avoid legal issues. He was actually graduating on the top of his dean's list, chancellor's list. He was in the who's, like at the
Wow.
top of his class. And then he had his episode right before graduation, which was also my son's birthday. And
Oh,
yeah, it was a hard time because we had to finish things up, but he had to leave the state. And then when he went down there, a lot of the things that they're saying isn't really too far from their normal personality, at least in my experience. Like my husband's always been into like esoteric sort of religious things and just constantly learning and trying to understand things. So they don't pick that up like we do. And they don't think it's odd that they're leaving you either, which is wild to me. But they can become attacking on you as well too. So I say if someone else is going through this and you're experiencing a situation where the family from the person you love side of the family where they're just calling you out and saying you're the issue and you're the reason, don't don't let it eat you up. You know the situation you're in. You should hold true to what you know is true because you deal with them every single day. And I have had some vindication recently because even though I did experience that where I was the one being attacked during his episode and told that I was in the wrong, his family moved in with us and now they've gotten to experience it firsthand. And so now they know. Because
Yeah.
even when he was getting ready to go through this episode, I was telling everyone, hey, he's getting ready to go through an episode. And his father was like, no, no, he's just really getting into his religion. I was like, no, 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 no. We're going into an episode right now. I can tell you. Because he was trying to convince his father I was a covert narcissist. And then he would try to do things to trigger me and set me off. And I would be like, what is going on? But now that they know, they've experienced it, they've never doubted me ever since that. Because I would tell them, hey, this is fixing to happen. I hope you guys are watching for it. And they'd be like, why would that happen? Where are you coming out? Because you'll predict things because you
Yeah.
are hyper vigilant, because you have picked up that skill.
Yep.
And because of that, because of experiencing that, now they never second guess me because they're like, how did you know that was going to happen?
That's good. Yeah, I mean, you bring up an interesting point too that like I don't know another term except to call it masking. It's not like they run around looking crazy the whole time or saying crazy things. That's not what it is. And I think like you said, it's how the media has portrayed it. Like if someone is psychotic, they're just psychotic looking all the time and you would immediately spot it because they're just completely crazy. No, my husband can function, he can do hobbies, he can talk to his parents normal, he can, and especially during the day, something about the daytime, he can show up and look pretty functional. But then night hits and oh my god, I call it the witching hour. It's like that's when all the crazy stuff comes out, all the delusions he's talking about, and like, and then who gets to see it? Me, because it's nighttime. He's not saying that to other people.
No.
So
That's
anyway.
great. I love that you brought that up because it made me think of three different things that I want to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about is how you experience them one way, and then society, when they're interacting with society, experiencing him just being, an energetic, charismatic, on top of the world kind of guy. And they love their energy typically when they're in the first part of this, especially when it's euphoric. But then you got him, like my husband in the sidelines, what he'll do is he'll talk to me the way that he really thinks and feels. And then I'll end up sounding like I'm insane because I'm like, hey, he just said this to me. It was bad. It was bad. Going through those experiences because his father would just look at me and be like, I don't believe that. And I'd be like, okay, that's fine. That's cool that you don't believe that. But I love that you brought that portion up because that does happen a lot of the time. And now that I've gone on to it, I'm trying to remember what the second point that I was going to make on that is.
Well, while you're thinking, it reminds me of one where we were at an amusement park and he was manic. I knew he was manic, but he hadn't crossed over into psychosis yet. And to other people, he just looks gregarious, charismatic, energetic, everything you said. And life of the party. And he went to go get something to drink. And when he came back, he was like, hey, you're never going to have to pay for anything anymore. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, Laura. And he's like, I got to deal with that guy because everybody knows me here. And I was like, and like to other people, they're like, what? He's not psychotic. Like, yeah,
that's just fun. You're just having a good time. Why are you being a party pooper for this good time?
Exactly.
But one thing else you said is that they usually look well put together. I will say that I was terrified that people were going to assume that I was the one who had like gone into an episode of some sort because I looked a mess.
Yeah, you're run ragged during a manic episode.
I've got stains on my clothes. My hair is a mess. My house is a mess. Everything. And he's just like cologne on, looking really nice. Like that's what people don't see because they're expecting what you said in the media or the cinematic experience that they have. It doesn't look like that. And usually the partner looks like they're the one going through the crisis, which they are. They are going through a crisis.
Exactly. It is a crisis for the partner as well. Wow. Yeah. So true. Yeah. Well, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I would love to say if you are dealing with somebody that is in like a psychotic episode, you should go to NAMI.com. They have crisis training that's in your area that you should do. You can even call your police department and ask them if they have any crisis training that's available, because a lot of the time NAMI's is pretty spread out to like bigger cities, but you can even call the phone number on NAMI's website when you pick your state to ask them if they know of anything that's going to be in your local area. There are some online ones you can do, but if you can learn crisis training, you should absolutely do that, because it's the difference of keeping your mental peace of mind and not escalating the situation into something more dangerous.
Yeah, and I just recently learned about that from you because you had done a TikTok on it, and I was like, what does that even mean? What is a crisis training? So yeah, that is such an important resource I didn't even know was available. So thank you.
Absolutely. I think this was awesome. I enjoyed getting to know you, seeing how similar our stories were, and kind of going over that, and just kind of building that bond and making that bridge happen for coming together. I think I remember the very first TikTok I saw of yours, you were talking about a Nakanoja, and I was like, this is my person. This is the person I need to be watching and, seeing what's going on, because you had said something I'd never heard before, and it was very insightful. And I hope we adopt what Colorado adopted, and all of the
Yes.
rest of the states as well, too.
Well, it's in the works. We haven't really, I feel like yeah, we do. There is at least a group of people in Colorado called Colorado Mad Moms who are working to kind of change the laws. But before they changed the laws, a few things had to be put in place. They needed to make sure there's enough beds. That's always a problem. So if we can make a law, getting our loved ones just even a temporary involuntary held, you still run into the problem of no beds. So then it was getting funding for more facilities. Like, it's a whole thing. But I really too, I hope that nationwide, like, things just get better for everyone. Because like you said, to protect the loved ones even later on. I mean, like, what if I'm not here? Then my son has to deal with it. Or my, like, it's hard. But it's great meeting you too and getting to know you too. And yeah, just having a community. I do feel like the mental health TikTok community is really good. Where can people find you on TikTok?
They can find me in Angelina, married to bipolar.
Perfect. Yeah. And you're just putting out great videos and information all the time. So I highly recommend checking you out. This has been so great. I might have you on for a part 2 because I bet Brooke is going to be jealous and want to talk to you as well. Yeah, so thanks everyone for tuning in. You can find us across all podcast platforms. If you want to watch us, we put it up on YouTube too. If you like it doing it that way, you can find me at the BP Spouse on TikTok, and you can find Brooke at break_the stigma. She doesn't post as much, but she does respond to DMs. And then if you're looking for more of a community-based support, we have a Facebook group called BipolarLines Pod. It's completely private. You can post anonymously, and we make sure to monitor it so that it's only for caregivers who are interested in positively helping their loved one. And it can be a place to vent, but it's not meant to be a place to bash. So we do monitor and make sure that that is the type of support group that we have. So yeah, thank you so much again, Angelina.
Thank you again, Laura. Thank you for having me. I look forward to it in the future doing more.
Yeah, and as always, everyone, thank you for showing up for your person. See you next time.